And welcome back to Fantasy Sports today here on SportsGrid. Time to play some hold or drop. Maybe you have to make some moves this week to pick up some players because you have bye weeks and some players may not make your roster moving forward. Or is there some upside moving forward for some of these players as well? George, let's start off with the Carolina Panthers. Xavier Leggett, 29 catches, 284 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Seems like every game I watch that this guy plays, they're always saying really good things about this player, but I have yet to really see a full breakout here. 4 touchdowns for him on the season. Adam Thielen is coming back very soon, if not this week. Is Leggett somebody to still hold on to? I feel like he's a nice dynasty play, but I don't know that he is a guy that I would hold the rest of this year.
Yeah, I think you and I agree here. I think a dynasty league, maybe even a keeper league, depending on how many players you can keep. Yeah, you want him. As far as this year, his upside is limited. I think Thielen returning, which as you sort of mentioned there, is questionable this week, will certainly help take some of the defensive coverage away. Chuba Hubbard's played great there, so there is a running game. But, what are you expecting? I don't think they do all that much damage against Kansas City this week. And next week there's no bye, so you're probably not starting him next week. I mean, I could see you wanting him for week 14 when there's bye-mageddon again with 6 more teams out here, but I just don't see the upside here. I just don't. I would assume you're going to have better on your roster. Now, once again, maybe you have no choice this week. All right, like I said, you have Chase, you have Higgins, whoever else might be at London, Mooney, and okay, you gotta start him. I understand that, but after that, you could certainly move on from, or you should be able to move on from him. He's not someone you're going to miss. How about that? All right, I just don't see it. Keeper, dynasty league, a little different. Redraft league, you should be able to move on.
Yeah, I think so. I think the same could be said for Romeo Doubs of the Green Bay Packers. Too much of a coin flip with all these wide receivers, and George, it feels like he's moved his way down at least to the number 3 wide receiver, maybe even beyond Wicks. Doubs is a drop for me.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with you here as well. Here, too many cooks in the kitchen, right? Watson, Dobbs, Wicks, Reed. You don't know who's going to be the guy week in and week out. Dobbs had the one nice week after he got suspended. He got the touchdown once again. Squeaky wheel may have gotten the grease there, and even Jordan Love really hasn't been that guy this year. Jordan Love is pretty much drafted as a top 8 quarterback. He just hasn't been it for whatever reason there. Another tough matchup this week against San Fran, although I'm the first person to tell you that San Fran defense is not what it used to be. All right, so I was about to say I wouldn't be afraid to start him, but yeah, I still would. I still don't know which guys it's going to be. Even Christian Watson, I'm not thrilled about either. Jaden Reed, I'm not thrilled about. I don't know which guy or guys it's going to be week in and week out for the Green Bay Packers.
All right, now we move on to a player that I think has some nice upside here, but the question is, will he ever be a big part of the offense? That's Ricky Pearsall of the San Francisco 49ers. Had that unfortunate shooting incident in the offseason, but really seems to be someone they want to get involved. But George, how long can you hang on to him? The 49ers offense just hasn't been good all year.
I mean, I like Ricky Pearsall. I think he's going to be a useful player for them. I just don't know what's going to be this fantasy season. It may be more down the line, right? Great story. Came back from being shot here to return to the 49ers. This whole team is somewhat of a, I don't want to say a mess, but there's some problems here. And the problems just keep getting worse and worse, right? You lost Brandon Ayuk, so you lost your main speed guy, which opens things up. George Kittle always seems to be banged up, which, hey, a lot of tight ends are. It's a brutal position, right? Between the blocking and the catching, you're an easy target once you catch the ball for hard tackles there. Deebo Samuel, to me, I wonder if there's an injury there that he can play through it, but he's not Deebo Samuel because he's not really breaking anything. Maybe things change now that Christian McCaffrey is back, so things will open up there. But, Greg, Brock Purdy is also a huge problem this week. All right, yesterday, that final session in practice before they left, he didn't participate. He is questionable at best to play. And I don't know if he does. I just don't know if he does. And if he doesn't play, by the way, that's Brandon Allen. If Brandon Allen's your quarterback, I don't know if I want to start anybody here other than Christian McCaffrey. Maybe I would still start Kittle. Tight end could be a quarterback's friend close. But watching Purdy's status is going to be very big the rest of this weekend.
All right, now at tight end, you could probably do better than Mike Gesicki on any given week, but the reality is that with so many tight ends off this week, maybe you have to start him. I'm probably a hold on him. 34 receptions, 383 yards, 2 touchdowns. They have been playing another tight end. Hudson is his name. He's been getting some love. He scored a touchdown a couple of weeks ago. Gesicki feels like a hold until your tight end, doesn't have a bye week anymore, George. Then you could bid him farewell.
Now they're off this week, so you're not starting Gesicki anyway. I'm moving on. All right. I don't see myself holding on to him through a bye week. Unless if my team is stacked, right? Maybe I'm a team. Listen, I play in 9 leagues. I'm sure there's a league where bye weeks didn't bother me this week. I don't think so offhand, but it could happen. And maybe you could hold on to him. But he hasn't been the same guy since T. Higgins returned, which is not a shock. We knew that early when T. Higgins was out that Burrow uses Gesicki more when T's out. Makes sense. Target's got to go somewhere. And once T returns, not so much here. But you also said the other problem. Hudson is taking away targets as well. All right, he's playing well. And Hudson seems to be the guy who gets more receptions. Gesicki's more the intermediary tight end, more for yardage there. So this is all bothersome for me. As if you watched In-Game Live last Sunday night with Dave Martinez and I, you know how unhappy I was with Gesicki and the offense. I don't think he caught a pass. In a game they scored 10,000 points, he didn't score a pass. So of course, be some ducats there. I wasn't happy with that. I am dropping him.
Finally, Will Dissly, our next and final tight end of the Los Angeles Chargers, had a nice game last week. Seems to be getting a lot of playing time for the Chargers. I would ask you, George, moving forward, is this somebody that you can afford to cut? He's got 352 receiving yards on the season. I know it's not as many as Gesicki. He does have more catches, and it seems like he's now a bigger part of their offense.
I wouldn't want to cut him this week. All right, they're playing Baltimore. All right, we know that's points are coming in this game. Well, they better be coming because if they're not coming for the Chargers, also they get blown out of the game here. He's a guy that's up and down, right? He had 4 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown last week, but before that, Craig, 5 for 30, 2 for 9, 541. And he had the big game, 8 for 81. I think it was against Arizona here. All right, then 26, 24, 19. He's had 2 big games. All right, 2 big games, 81 and 80. Other than that, everything else is under 40 yards here. The only touchdown came last week. I am willing to hold on to him for this week because, once again, you're playing Baltimore. Assuming you don't have anybody else on your roster, I'm probably not starting him over anybody else that's decent. I don't see myself doing that. So if you have someone else who's decent, you move on here. Or maybe if you have a tight end that's on bye in week 14, you hold him. I can understand that as well here. But I said 2 big games this year. Other than that, it's been very blah.
Let's go to the quarterback position. And I think that this is a crazy question that we probably wouldn't have asked earlier in the season. But Sam Darnold, I mean, look, he's finally gone the other way, unfortunately. 2,387 yards. He has 19 touchdowns. It's 10 interceptions now on the season. He started off so good. You know, we talked about this earlier in the season, George. Eventually, Darnold sort of regresses to what he used to be.
You just said it. We said the same thing. This is what he does over and over again. First 5-6 games, he's good. The rest of the season, not so much here. Also, he's much better in the scripted plays. Most teams script the top of the first 15 plays, then they see what's working the rest of the game. He practices that all week. He's very good at it. After that, not as much here. He's killing Justin Jefferson. All right, absolutely killing him. I don't think Jefferson scored a touchdown since week 6 or week 7 here, and that's all on Darnold here. Can't find him. So, listen, I'd like to drop him. I did in one league, by the way. A quarterback one league, you should be able to do better. I know he had a nice week. I think he had his best fantasy week last week, so it's funny we're bringing this up now. They're playing Chicago this week, tough secondary. I don't see big things coming here. I'd like to drop him. You should be able to do better. I would take Bo Nix over him for the rest of the year.
All right, real quick. Hall of Fame vote. Next player. Antonio Gates, tight end, Los Angeles/San Diego Chargers. I guess he never played in LA. Antonio Gates, Hall of Famer?
I don't think he ever did play in LA. Yeah. So how does that work? I guess he would be a San Diego Charger in that case. Yeah, I think Antonio Gates is a Hall of Famer. I know this probably shocks you. I certainly wouldn't consider him one of the greatest of the great, but I do think he is a Hall of Fame tight end. I think there's a couple other guys out there. I think Tony Gonzalez in? If not, he should be in. Jason Witten will be in the Hall of Fame one day, the Cowboy. But yeah, tight end Antonio Gates, no issues with him being in the Hall of Fame.
All right, we'll take a quick time out here on Fantasy Sports Today. Plenty more to come, and we will be back for it. We return next. Also, don't forget, more Fantasy Sports Today coming your way Sunday morning with Joe Pisapia and Matt Stryker. We'll be right back.
Chris Cyborg, 39 years of age. Larissa Pacheco, only 30. Cyborg 2 inches taller. Equal measurement on the arm reach for these women. Slightly longer legs for Chris Cyborg. Touch of the gloves, and we are underway in our co-main event. Cauliflower.
I don't know, it might be
beautiful.
double.
What a level. Oh,
big kick.
How did she take that? Pacheco just ate it.
Wow.
Measured and controlled in her breathing. Oh, nasty left hand snuck over the top for Cyborg. Pacheco, she will literally and figuratively smell blood in the water. Oh, here's a guillotine.
Another beautiful takedown, but she put herself right in harm's way. That is tight.
Good short elbow there.
Very nice.
Good overhand right there from Cyborg.
That was a solid right hand.
Needing some punches.
Watch the back of the head, Chris. Watch the back of the head. First deep breath I've seen Larissa take in this fight. Just about 10 seconds ago. Oh, nice takedown.
Rolls through onto an ankle, maybe. 15 seconds, and we're going to see some wildness. Yeah, of course
Yes,
we
we
are.
Both women landed there. They'll swing away to the final bell here.
9-46, I'll have it for the winner by unanimous decision. And now the PFL Superfights Women's Featherweight World Champion, Chris Cyborg!
The legend adds to her legacy. Chris Cyborg.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports today here on SportsGrid. Let's dive back into some holds or drops. Boy, how sad is this? Aaron Rodgers. Is this the last ad drop we'll ever do with Aaron Rodgers? 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions on the season, 2,442 passing yards. This has been a season that Aaron Rodgers is never going to want to remember again. Hate to say it, George, here, but I mean, 2-quarterback league, if you're desperate, I guess so. And I want to expand the conversation a little bit further. But for me, yeah, he's a drop. And I guess the question for you, is this the last time you think we do this with him?
He says he wants to play next year. How many times do you say it? There aren't 32 good quarterbacks. I think the question for him is going to be, no good team is going to go for him, right? I don't see that happening. He'd have to go to sort of an afterthought team or a team. I mean, someone brought this up, which I found hilarious. To go to a team that's grooming a quarterback, a top pick. Boy, I don't know if Rodgers is the guy I want to groom my quarterback. So I don't think that works out. I don't think he'd want to do that either because he's going to want to play for a team he thinks can win. So I think it'd be a very tricky offseason for him to see what he wants to do. Do I think it's going to be the last time? I'll say no. If he doesn't want to retire, someone will give him a job, and we'll be talking about it next year at this point. Now, I do have him, Craig, in 2 leagues. They are both super flex leagues. So I have not started him each week. This week, I think, obviously, he's out. But he's been disappointing, to put it nicely. I think he's had 1 week I could live with. Other than that, not good. Devontae Adams been a bust with him here. He's dropped. I say in a 1-quarterback league, if you've got him in a 1-quarterback league, I don't know what you're doing. In a 2-quarterback league, like I said, every quarterback is taken, so you don't have a choice here. But he's not someone I'm looking to start. Even though the Jets schedule is good for fantasy. He should be putting up points, right? But he's just not doing it. It's ugly. It's going to get uglier, by the way, for the Jets because it's just, listen, they fired everybody as it is. There's no one left. But it's all going to come down on him now, right? And Woody Johnson, for that matter, the owner. They're going to get on him. They're going to get on A-Rod. I do not see him coming back to the Jets next year at all. So I think he's moving on. But like I said, I think someone will pick him up, yeah.
Raheem Mostert of the Miami Dolphins, our next subject here. Mostert's been hurt most of the season. He ain't going to score another 25 touchdowns this year. He's got 2 on the year, 212 rushing yards, 105 receiving yards. Gosh, I guess it's a hold for handcuff reasons because A-Chain is really the only one you're going to start at this point. But George, if A-Chain was to get hurt or miss games, and he has missed some in the past, Mostert could be the guy again. I feel what's a little fascinating, George, with Mostert is it does seem like McDaniel still really likes him. And if they are near the goal line, they do give him the ball.
I agree with everything you said here, but he's always hurt. Even he gets game. Oh my, he's out for the rest of the game with this, and he plays the next week here. Once again, love their schedule. Then you play New England, Green Bay's a little rough, but then you got the Jets, Houston, San Fran, Cleveland. I mean, it's a nice fantasy schedule, and they're scoring more points. They're scoring more points with Tua back, which of course, they couldn't score any less without him, right? I mean, that was pretty terrible here. So they have the normal offense again, as you said. I can see you holding on to him if you have it, A-Chain. You want to cover yourself here. Although I wonder if Wright, by the way, would play a lot more if A-Chain did go down here. But he's a guy. It comes down to this: if I need a player this week, and I need to win, and he's on the roster now, I have no problem moving on from him. If you can find somebody who thinks will get you more points than Mostert this week, fine. I'm okay with it. But odds are, once again, running back, Pulse, nobody else out there on the waiver wire. Odds are I'm keeping him.
All right. Finally, we get to Devin Singletary, the New York Giants. I'm in this position. I have Singletary on one of my teams, and sometimes you're forced to play him. But season started off looking a little promising, but now Tyrone Tracy has just taken over. This is a similar situation where I don't think you can cut him, George, because if Tracy was to not play or something was to happen, you'd go back to Singletary again, and you'd probably play him. He only has 2 touchdowns on the season. I think I'm holding Singletary, but I'm only doing it for handcuff reasons. That's it.
You just said it, by the way. All right. The difference from Mostert, as you said, will get carries at the goal line, right? Doesn't matter. He'll get some carries there, so you might get lucky. Singletary is only valuable if Tracy goes down. And we don't know. I think you and I don't want to speak for you, but I think you and I both have some optimism that DeVito can score some points, right? So they'll make the offense decent, which is probably too strong a word here. So that could be good for Singletary. But once again, Craig, this is yardage. 40, 33, 11, 18, 24 over the last 5 weeks. And he did miss 2 games in there due to injury there. So that's not good. And he gives you little to nothing in the receiving game. So you are only holding on to him as a handcuff. Anything else, let him go. If you have extra running back depth where you don't care about the handcuff, find somebody else because he gives you nothing here. Nothing against Tracy goes down. And I'll be the first person to tell you, I love their matchups, right? But I think the matchups are better for the passing game. I probably have more interest in Wan'Dale Robinson or Darius Slayton than I do Devin Singletary, if you had a choice. If it's a flex conversation, I would rather go with the pass catchers than I would Singletary.
Okay. And, finally, here's a question for you, George. At this point, if you think you're making the playoffs, because we're getting a lot of these kind of questions a lot too, are you now selectively adding a defense for the playoffs in fantasy football? Like, are you looking at matchups now? Or are you hanging on to the same defense you had all season long? Because you now can project out, like, as an example, if you have 7, 8, or 9 wins in fantasy football, I don't know that you have more than that this season, but let's just say you have 7, 8, or 9, you're feeling like you got a really good shot. Are you looking at week 14, week 15 ahead of time and picking defenses up here, or are you still hanging on and waiting?
No, I have no problem looking ahead here. Defense, depending on how your league settings are, but in most normal leagues, they're not going to get you a ton of points anyway. All right, so I have no problem looking ahead. I've become that person, Craig. I like playing matchups in defense anyway, each week. I don't hold on to a defense to a bye. I move on unless I've got some great defense that year, which most of the defenses this year are not. So I have no problem moving on from a defense week in, week out to find out who's ahead. And if I can look ahead and say my week, the playoffs, week 15, 16, 17, oh, this defense looks good. No issues at all. Claim it early.
All right, we'll take a quick time out here on Fantasy Sports Today. It's trade or fade time. Coming up next, trade deadline for a lot of you is coming to an end here, so we got to make sure we get that covered for you. Also, don't forget, Sunday morning, it's Fantasy Sports Today with Joe Pisapia and Matt Stryker. And, George, before we get to a little trade or fade, Thanksgiving plans, you and I are not going to have a chance to talk about that, so we will do that coming back after the break, too. Happy holidays to everybody watching our show here on FST. We'll be right back.
Together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, it's going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was
that's
looking
what your
down
grandma
and did
does,
not
right?
know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, time to play a little trade or fade trade deadline. I know coming and going for a lot of you in fantasy. Usually this is the final week you can make trades in fantasy football. So let's get into it and see if there's any players here that we can move or grab, by the way. Calvin Ridley, who is starting to come on a little bit here with the Tennessee Titans now that they moved DeAndre Hopkins out of town. 74 targets, but just 36 receptions, 541 yards and 3 touchdowns. George, this was the one big surprise in free agency. Calvin Ridley was not really projected to go to Tennessee, and he ended up doing it. It's not really working out for him statistically well. Financially, it's working out just fine. I wonder if Tennessee regrets this a little bit, and I wonder if fantasy owners are regretting drafting him. He really hasn't done much this year.
Oh, I think everybody regrets it right about now, other than Calvin Ridley. And we sort of saw this when he was Jacksonville, right? Same thing. He was a nice number 2 at Atlanta, right behind Julio Jones. And life's a little easy when you got Julio Jones on the other side. Everybody cares about him. When he put up nice numbers for Atlanta, then when he's the number 1, it's not the same. I said not having Matt Ryan probably hurts as well. He's also not a Hall of Famer, Craig. No Matt Ryan. All right, so that hurts as well here. So you go to Jacksonville, doesn't really work out. You go to Tennessee, it's okay, but not what fantasy owners were hoping. He has played well of late. All right, and he's hot. And they have a decent matchup this week against Houston, right? So I think he'll have a decent week for you. You're starting him this week. But do I think he's going to lead you to a fantasy championship? No, I don't see that happening. And I think these teams that keep giving him a chance are hoping and praying because nothing that we see shows that he's going to be that guy.
All right, now let's get to the running back position. The Washington Commanders, Brian Robinson. I think I'm hanging on here. I mean, this guy's got 7 touchdowns already on the season, 524 yards, 88 receiving yards. I know he doesn't catch the ball a ton out of the backfield. Washington's also in a little bit of an offensive mini slump, but boy, Robinson to me is anytime they're near the goal line, he gets the first, second, sometimes third opportunity.
He was on my bold predictions, so you already heard it. I think he gets at least 80 yards and 2 touchdowns this week. Not 1, 2 against the Cowboys, and 100 yards wouldn't shock me either. One thing also that plays into his favor, Jaden Daniels is not running anywhere near as much since that rib injury, right? A couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago now. He's not running anywhere near as much, so I'm not worried about him stealing a touchdown, by a quarterback sneak or anything. As you just said it, I think and it wasn't a joke. First, second, 3, 4, 5 tries, they'll keep giving it to Brian Robinson. He is the touchdown guy. And let's face it, they're scoring 4 to 5 touchdowns Sunday. All right, everybody else says I don't see them having any problems against the Cowboys either. So, yeah, Brian Robinson, love Brian Robinson. Definite keep.
All right, now let's get to Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins, who's also had a down year. 44 receptions, 528 receiving yards, just 3 touchdowns. I feel like something good is coming for Tyreek Hill. I don't know if it's going to be this week against the Patriots. That's a tougher matchup. But certainly, I'm not trading Tyreek Hill at this point. I drafted him so high. I got to get something here at the end.
I agree. Even if you did trade him, you wouldn't get the equal value for him. You just wouldn't. So I don't see you having the thrill to do it anyway. Now, his target share is just fine. Actually, it's better than fine. He's getting thrown the football. He hasn't broken those long plays, right? We haven't seen that great. And it was just kind of weird because the injury that's being reported is to his wrist, not his legs. So it shouldn't be an issue. He has caught short touchdowns the past couple of weeks, which is something he usually doesn't do, right? 'Cause he's not really that inside the 10-yard line guy. But we haven't seen the big long play. That's what we're waiting for here. When does he break one, get that 65-yard touchdown and such here? No, I'm holding on to him. He starts, but this week could be a little tough. Christian Gonzalez, one of the best corners in the league at tamping down our expectations of wide receivers. But Hill's still a different kind of wide receiver. Even Gonzalez can't catch up with him.
Yep. All right. Isaiah Pacheco of the Kansas City Chiefs ruled out this week, by the way, not going to play. Maybe he'll play next Friday against the Raiders. Yeah, there's a game next Friday. Pacheco, 135 rushing yards, 54 receptions. Absolutely not fading Pacheco. I'm going to hang on and wait here. I don't know if that I would trade for him, though. I think Kareem Hunt has done well enough to be part of that backfield.
Yeah, you just said the problem, right? Even when he returns, that's going to be a timeshare of some sort. All right. I think Pacheco's your goal line guy because he is that angry runner. All right. So I expect him to keep that up there. But I think it's going to be a timeshare. Sure, I'd like to hold on to him. He's on IR, so you don't have to make a decision right now anyway. So you're all good here. I don't think I would trade for him, though, because of that problem with Hunt here. And I don't know exactly what his role will be. Maybe they won't want to be him the goal line guy because of the leg and they want to protect him somewhat. I don't think that's true, but it could be. We never know how Andy Reid's going to think.
All right, we'll take a quick timeout. When we come back next, we run through all of the games this week in fantasy football, one by one, player by player, who to start, who to sit, some updates on players who are out already going into this week as well. You're watching Fantasy Sports Today. We'll be right back.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Quarterly, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, it's going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on Sports Grid. Let's get into some of the games this week. And we'll start off with the game that you basically look at and say, can the Lions do it again? Can they put up another 40 or a 50 on a team in the NFL? They've been doing it on a week-to-week basis. They're at the Indianapolis Colts, George. Obviously, you're playing as many Lions as you can get into the lineup. But how about the Colts? Who do you got?
You said it, by the way. Laporta was taken off the injury report, so he's good to go as well. So we're all good there. The Colts, all right, you're starting Jonathan Taylor. You can't not. I think Anthony Richardson's going to be a quarterback one this week, especially with all the bye weeks, so I'm good there. As much as I expect them to throw the ball a bunch, it's the wide receivers I get a little scary about. Pittman, Downs. You just don't know what he's going to do with those guys. They're more flex considerations for me, but I would like to I'd like to start one. I just don't know which one it's going to be. For some reason, I keep thinking Downs is that guy.
Patriots and Dolphins, not a game that I really want to have a lot of involvement in. The Dolphins came on late last week. I would tell you, George, one of the surprising starts for me in this game, probably, I don't know how it's come to this, but doesn't it seem like Tua has been throwing to Jonnu Smith like over and over and again, like more than Tyreek Hill and more than Jalen Waddle? So I think that you got to fire him up. And as far as New England is concerned, it's just the running back. It's just Stevenson, maybe Drake May if you needed it. But I guess that's a surprise for me, George. I thought it would be all those receivers that Miami had. Seems to be a lot of lockdown on that tight end.
I agree. Listen, you're still starting Hill. You're probably starting Waddle. But Jonnu Smith is the guy he might be most excited about going here. Tua's looking for him. And you saw last week the big, breakdown when no one covered the guy. And he had the long touchdown there. So, yeah, I want Jonnu Smith. You're starting a chain. And as you said, Stevenson a bust. I'm not doing it. Maybe Hunter Henry. All right. You can convince me with Hunter Henry at tight end as well here. But I don't want any receivers.
All right, now let's go to the Buccaneers and Giants. And again, still some injury issues here with Tampa Bay, so we're not entirely sure. We know the Giants are in a do-over mode here. Back to Tommy DeVito they go at quarterback. They'll play the Buccaneers this week. Bucky Irving has been a hot topic in fantasy this week, George, with their head coach saying that he deserves to get more playing time. I know I got to play him, but then again, I got to wait for the injuries to clear themselves up before Sunday.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, right? We're going to need to hear more about the top two wide receivers, Evans and Neighbors. I think Evans plays. I just wondering about a snap count for him. Neighbors might be the bigger worry about how long he might play. Luckily, that's a 1 o'clock game. We will know about 11:30 Eastern whether or not Neighbors goes here. Tyrone Tracy goes here. If Neighbors is out, I would probably consider Slayton and or Wan'Dale Robinson. Tampa's going to score points. DeVito's going to have to throw the ball. Someone's got to catch it. That's sort of theory there. All right, so I would certainly consider it there. As for Tampa, if you need somebody, McMillan, I mean, he's been quiet since that once week, but he's back this week. Maybe he can be that guy here. So I can see you taking McMillan here. Rashad White is almost certainly going to go. And we've heard this Irving thing before, by the way. I don't know if I'm going to believe that, Bowers going to do it until he actually puts him in there, but he's a consideration as well.
All right, now let's finally go to the Cowboys-Commanders game where it has to be all hands on deck for the Commanders based on what we've seen from the Cowboys. So Jaden Daniels has got to play, McLaurin, Brian Robinson. Maybe you throw a Zach Ertz in here. I think those are the easy numbers here, George. You know exactly who to play on Washington, but what you don't know is Dallas. Outside of CeeDee Lamb, what are you doing?
Can I just be quiet? We go to the next one. Let's be quiet. You just say it's CeeDee Lamb. Jake Ferguson's out, concussion. He's done. If you're starting anybody else on Dallas, I know Cooper rushed through for almost 400 yards last week, but they were empty yards. You're certainly not starting Cooper. And there's no secondary receiver or a tight end. You want to start Schumacher? If you're desperate, sure. But even though all those yards that Rush had, was one touchdown. I mean, no, it's CeeDee Lamb. And by the way, even he's iffy for the game. I think he plays, but even he's iffy. And by the way, one guy I forgot for Tampa Bay, Cade Otton, is a must start.
All right, now let's check out the Chiefs and Panthers. The Kansas City Chiefs, of course. George and I have talked about this. Patrick Mahomes has been barely startable all season, but look, this may be the matchup that you want to go to him here. Of course, Travis Kelce is starting. Xavier Worthy starting to play better. For Carolina, George, Chuba Hubbard's been fantastic. You got to put him in. Outside of that, you're taking a shot on the Panthers. I don't know that I want to do that.
I almost put Mahomes in my bold predictions this week, that he's going to have that kind of week. So I agree with you. He's a quarterback one this week. You're going with him here. Hunt is an absolute go since Pacheco's not starting here. Worthy, I might have to think about he's a boom or bust guy. For the love of God, figure out how to keep your feet in bounds, Worthy. right, it's getting a little annoying that you keep catching passes out of bounds here. Weird that for a wide receiver to be not great at that. I'm not going to go as far down as Watson or Gray for tight end, although either one could have a big game. Hopkins, he's a go this week. He's getting in the end zone this week. I thought about him as a bold prediction as well. They ended up being my top 10, not my top 5 guys here. So he goes Carolina's Hubbard, and that's it.
Titans and Texans this week. Houston's offense not nearly what we thought it would be at the beginning of the season, but the easiest start this week, maybe of all, George, is Joe Mixon. My gosh, this guy's had a fantastic year. You don't even have to think twice. This guy's going to be like top 3 running back at the end of the fantasy season. Beyond that, for Tennessee, I guess you got to fire up Pollard. The wide receiving situation in Tennessee is not good. Quarterback situation is not really good. So I guess outside of Pollard, are you playing anybody on the Titans? Ridley, we just talked about him. Would you give him a shot? And for Houston, you're still playing Nico Collins. And again, you're playing Mixon. Beyond that, Stroud is a debate too.
Agreed. Everything you just said there. I'm not thrilled about Pollard, by the way, but you probably have to start. If Ridley's the same thing, maybe you don't have to start if you're deep enough there. I'm not going anyplace else with Tennessee. Remember, Joe Mixon, by the way, he'll never run out of touchdown celebrations. He told us that Monday night. So good for him. He's a must there. Collins is a must. He didn't play his full couple little snaps last week. They didn't need him to. Right, they scored 1,000 points with or without him here, but he'll play more this week. Tank Dell is that guy. Do we start Dell? Do we not Dell? Start Dell? He's that guy, sort of like Ridley. I'd rather not. They're flex considerations, guys. I do think they score points here, 3 to 4 touchdowns. Dell could get one of those. Dalton Schultz, probably not a tight end. I think I'm done with Dalton.
All right, now let's go over to the Broncos and Raiders, and all of a sudden the Broncos have this dynamic offense running. My gosh, they crushed the Falcons last week. George and I briefly talked about Bo Nix. All of a sudden, he's not in the top 12 conversation. He's in like the top 6 conversation at quarterback, and mixing it up to Sutton and some others. Still, their running back situation seems a little murky to me. And the Raiders, my gosh, what an epic disappointment they are. Some injury issues, by the way. I think, George, I saw to their running backs this week. I saw Abdullah getting more touches than maybe some of the others. Jacoby Myers was a startable player. I don't know that he is anymore. So I guess it's the number 1 tight end in fantasy football in Brock Bowers, and then you're really taking a shot.
Yeah, Amir Abdullah was one of the top pickups this week, as Madison and Zamir White are both doubtful to play here. So Abdullah could get a decent amount of touches here in this contest here. He might be a guy to go with here, although that's a tough Denver run defense. It's sort of good luck. Bowers must start, right? Number 1 tight end this year, playing fantastic. Jacoby Myers, no, I'll pass. Nix must start for me here. The running game is annoying, right? Estime was, before last week, the top pickup. This week, the top drop. Because Javonte Williams was the guy last week. You just don't know who Peyton's going to use. It could be Estime, it could be Williams, it could be McLaughlin. We just don't know here. Williams would be my guy if I had to choose. Sutton starts for me.
All right, Packers and 49ers. For the sake of this show, we're going to skip over the 49ers, given that Brock Purdy did not practice on Friday. So we could be giving you some misinformation. Best case scenario for you, if you have Brock Purdy, tune in Sunday morning to Joe Pisapia and Matt Stryker, and they'll tell you whether or not he's active. As far as the Packers are concerned, George, more of the same. Jordan Love absolutely starts, although the interceptions are starting to rack up here a little bit. Watson off a good week. Jacobs a play as well.
Agreed. It's the wide receivers you're worried about, right? Which one to go here? I would probably go Watson, Reed in that order there before I go to Wick Stobbs. Kraft maybe goes a tight end for you. Like I said, that's how I'm going. Jordan Love, he's a start, but man, stop throwing the interceptions.
In the red zone, too. Losing points for interceptions in some league. We'll cap it all out when we come back next, and then we'll get into some daily fantasy potential starts for you when we return next here on this edition of Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. So don't go away. More coming up next.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, hey, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Quarterly, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma will do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports today here on SportsGrid. Let's cap off a couple of previews, and then we're going to get into daily fantasy buy or sell. The Cardinals-Seahawks game and Eagles-Rams game, George. I know we don't have a ton of time here to go over these. Cardinals have been a big surprise. Harrison, Murray, certainly a start. James Conner, a start. Although I will say next year, George, look out for this kid Benson at running back for Arizona. I think this kid is going to be a star. I would grab him in dynasty leagues if I could. Seahawks, I mean, look, it's a week-to-week thing with them too. That 1 week they seem to play great on offense, 1 week they struggle. So I'm probably just going to play, DK Metcalf and hope that Kenneth Walker, comes through for me. But they're a tough team to gauge too.
They are. You're absolutely right. As someone who has a bunch of Seahawks on different fantasy teams, they are a frustrating team, I guess, to put it nicely. I'll add McBride to this for Arizona. You're certainly starting him here. And for Seattle, Smith-Njigba, you're certainly starting him. He's been big the last 2 weeks. He's been better than Metcalf the past 2 weeks. He's hot. This is an important game. This is an NFC West battle here. Arizona's in first, Seattle's in second. Big game for Seattle. They win this game, I think theoretically they might be in first place. They lose it, you could be in last place at the end of the week.
All right. And finally, the Eagles and Rams, Devonta Smith out for the Eagles this week. So potential action coming for wide receiver 2s in Philadelphia alongside A.J. Brown and, of course, Jalen Hurts. Rams, you play those 2 great wide receivers, Nakua, Cooper Kupp. Kupp came through in a big way last week. Huge game for him. And Kyron Williams has been as rock solid a play at RB1 as anybody this year.
He hasn't scored a rushing touchdown in a while now. I think this is week 8. So we'd like to see that picked up a little bit. But, right, you're still starting him. All right, so Kyron goes. Stafford could be a tricky play here. Philadelphia may have the best secondary in the league all of a sudden. That secondary has picked up so much in November. So keep that in mind. That being said, you're starting Nakua, you're starting Kupp. You always start those guys, right? Philadelphia, A.J. Brown goes. He'll see different coverage now. Can we start Dotson? Maybe. Goddard was the guy who was a big early in the year when A.J. Brown was out. Goddard could have a big game again here. He's a must start as well.
All right, now let's go to some daily fantasy buy or sell. The QB position, Baker Mayfield of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, having a fantastic statistical season, without a doubt. He's priced at $6,100 this week on DraftKings, George. Are you buying or selling Baker Mayfield this week?
Coming off a bye, you're playing the New York Giants here, and I think Tommy DeVito is going to do just enough where where he'll keep the game close enough where it's not a blowout in the second half, at least not a complete blowout in the second half, and they won't be running the ball left and right just to get the game over with. I think Baker will have to play the entire game. I think Mike Evans scoring a touchdown in this game. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. I'll be betting an anytime touchdown for that. So what I'm telling you, this is a buy for me, Craig. I like Baker Mayfield for this price. He's about the 10th quarterback overall here. I mean, Kyler Murray costs a little bit more. Knicks costs a little bit more, but you're paying cheaper, a little. Darnold's a little less. Tua is a little. I like this price. Bottom line is, I like Baker Mayfield a whole bunch this week. Giants just show up a little bit. Don't get blown out 27-3 at halftime.
All right, let's go over to the running back position. Kansas City Chiefs made it official. Isaiah Pacheco will not play this week for the Chiefs when they go on the road and take on the Colts. Kareem Hunt is 5,700 on DraftKings this week. If they get near the goal line, he's probably getting a touchdown. But is that enough? Are you buying or selling Kareem Hunt 5,700 on DK?
Love this price as well. I mean, this is a good price for Kareem Hunt. You just said I think he gets in the end zone also. My only negative would be Brian Robinson, who's on my bold predictions, is $100 cheaper. And I would certainly go with Brian Robinson first. I think Brian Robinson scoring more than one, but I think Hunt might get more than one too. All right, so I like both of these guys here, both. All right, so I'm going to put buy for Kareem Hunt here. Bottom line is I probably wouldn't have Hunt and Robinson in my lineup. I probably wouldn't need to save that much money. But if I did, I have no problem with both guys in my lineup here. Like I said, Robinson, 5,600. Hunt is 5,700. I think it's a great price for these two.
All right, player that George talked about, he likes a lot. Number 1 wide receiver in San Francisco, Jawan Jennings. He's priced at 5,600. But I got to tell you, I ain't hitting the green and I ain't hitting the red. I think we got to move on here without knowing if Brock Purdy's going to play.
Boy, I do like the price. And if Purdy was healthy, I would love this. I mean, we don't know. And by the way, even if they say he's going to play, is it going to be more of a run-heavy game against Green Bay now? And then we're supposed to get some rain there, too. That could be a problem. So if I had to answer this question right now, that's an easy sell. All right, there's no way I would put him in my lineup right now. I can't do it. And like I said, even if I find out Purdy is going to play, and we may not know, by the way, this is a late game on Sunday. It's a 4:25 game, so we're not going to know until about 2:45 whether he's going to play. It's probably too late for us. All right, so I am more than likely selling this. I do like Jawan Jennings, I do, but this may not be that week.
By the way, where's this guy Jimmy Garoppolo? Where's that guy at these days? What team is he on? It's got to be on.
I thought he was with. He's with some. He got. Oh, is it the Raiders? No, it's not the Raiders. He would have started already. I got to look this up, because he should be.
I was thinking, how do they not have a name backup quarterback? He's on the Rams, Sam.
He's on the Rams behind Stat. The 1 year Stafford stays healthy, right? He was suspended coming into the season anyway.
San Francisco would love to have him play. They'd love to have him playing this week. All right, TJ Hawkinson, 4,200. Let's go here. Hard to really invest in the Vikings offense. I got to tell you, if I was buying a defense, I want all of the Vikings defense. This is the best defense in the NFL this season. Buy or sell on Hawkinson at 4,200.
He just hasn't done much coming off the injury, right? I mean, you sort of said it. Part of it's definitely Sam Darnold's fault. Part of it, maybe Hawkinson's not quite up to par. Maybe it's the coaching staff taking it easy with him, not wanting to overload him coming in. Getting ready for more of the later in the season here. But no, this is a sell. This is an easy sell for me. Probably the easiest question of all, other than Jawan Jennings, because we don't know about Purdy here. But Laporte playing at an extra 4,300. I love Cade Otton. Now, you really got to pay up for Cade Otton, by the way.
Yeah, he's
with Hawkins, how about Janu Smith at 4,100? Definitely take him.
Like
Henry, 4,000. Yeah. Easy choices for me.
Buy or sell turkey on Thanksgiving?
Buy. Gotta have turkey in the tryptophan here. Love my turkey. Probably the only time all year I eat as far as a roasted turkey. I do like turkey sandwiches during the year. On Friday when we got that game, Craig, was the Kansas City Raiders. I'll have leftovers. I'll have a nice turkey little thing here. I love turkey. Yes. Buy. Not a big ham guy if that's where you're going.
Buy or sell Thanksgiving dinner before 5 p.m. Buy or sell?
I'm a Cowboy fan, Craig. If you don't have it before 5 p.m., I'm not at the table.
Note to the Kurtzes. Serve the food. Right back.
it's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards.
That was
Lincoln!
But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like and be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, we're almost out of here for this edition of Fantasy Sports today, but let me tell you a little something about something you may not have known. Here's this little something. Did you know that fantasy points over the last 4 seasons, Taysom Hill actually has more than Kyle Pitts, 505.6? George, I would guess those 505.6 fantasy points are all within the span of 5 games. That'd be my guess.
I was thinking the same thing. Hill has been that guy. You and I talked about it earlier in the show, right? We've both had him in different leagues this year. I know I've had him in a couple of leagues. I moved on, and you sort of have to get lucky that, that's the week. And last week was that week where he had 44.1 points, whatever it was crazy with the 3 touchdowns there. So he's a frustrating player. Pitts has been frustrating as well. Right? This has been probably his best fantasy season so far, and it's not great. It's just better than what we've had here. So I'm probably still surprised by that. I mean, Pitts has been that bad that he's being outscored by Hill. I wouldn't have saw that coming into the show, certainly.
All right, most targets this fantasy season. This is another big shock, probably. Look at this. The 2 top targeted wide receivers are on 2 of the worst teams in the NFL. And let me even take this a step further. Look at number 3 in Jamar Chase. They're horrible. Look at Malik Neighbors, number 4. They're horrible too. I want to take wide receivers in fantasy, George, next year on the bad teams in the NFL. I've learned my lesson.
Yeah, you do. The problem is we didn't think the Jets were going to be bad this year. Maybe not great, but not bad. We didn't think the Cowboys are going to be bad this year. All right. We didn't think Cincinnati was going to be bad. I mean, Jamar Chase and Lamb are going in the first round anyway. We did think the Giants would be bad here. We weren't really sure about the Falcons, but I've told you before, Craig, I've changed my thinking. Where I don't now. You and I have been playing fantasy forever. I don't take running backs in the first round anymore. All right, they get hurt. They're disappointing. I go for wide receivers nowadays, assuming you're playing in a PPR league. I guess some leagues still play standard leagues, but I do not. So I'm taking wide receivers. I've been doing it now for 2 years. It's weird. It almost hurts my soul to do that because you're so used to doing it the other way. But that's the way I approach it.
Let's end this edition of the show with the SportsGrid 60.
All right, the SportsGrid 60. Now, usually I use this minute of time to complain about something. I might call this minute a certain nickname that rhymes with witch behind the scenes here. But today, listen, it's Thanksgiving. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. It is my favorite holiday as an adult here. Yes, a lot of it is because the Cowboys play every Thanksgiving. I go to my mom's house, my brother, maybe some other family members will be there. My stepsister might show up there. So it's a good time here. I wasn't kidding earlier. All right, my family knows if you want me to eat at the table, you better have that done before 4 o'clock. The game's now at 4:30. Dinner better be on that table at 4, preferably after the Detroit game. All right. And by the way, it's not just me. My brother's the same way. All right. He's not a Cowboy fan, but he's a big gambler. So he has bets on everything. So we both want to watch the games here. But I love Thanksgiving. It's a great holiday here. Tell you a quick little story here to let you know how crazy I am. My stepfather, his mother, didn't speak much English. And I might yell at the TV a time or two. Maybe just a little bit. And she would go to her son. He does know they can't hear him, right? You know, and he's like, yes, Mom. He knows. He's a Miami Dolphin fan. He would say, I do the same thing, Mom, watching the games. But he knows, it's the way to get frustration out. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of George's sentiments here. Thankful again, for everyone here at SportsGrid. It's been awesome to be here the last several years working for SportsGrid and Fantasy Sports Network. Certainly all of our great producers and directors have been fantastic and continue to be as well. And, for those of you who just heard what George said, here is what I'm also going to add to this, is that George Kurtz, you may not hear him or see him on the network as much as you do some others, but this guy is literally working behind the scenes constantly. I am going to ask those of you who work here at SportsGrid. I don't think I've ever looked at this camera and said, those of you here at SportsGrid, leave George alone on Thanksgiving. Let him have his holiday. Like, it's the only thing he cares. Even Christmas, if you call George, hey, George, the bleep hit the fan. Can you come on? Yeah, I'll be on in 5 minutes. Every time. Doesn't matter who. On this holiday, lose the guy's number. Call me instead. I'll figure it out. I'll drive home from wherever I am. Seriously, leave George alone. Let him have his one holiday a year. Also, thankful for Sam, our producer. Does a great job here on this show, too. Happy Thanksgiving, Sam. We will see you the day after that Black Friday game for our next edition of Fantasy Sports Today. Enjoy this weekend. Enjoy Thanksgiving Day. We'll see you next week here on SportsGrid.
Contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek. Because I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you was here on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, it's going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on